Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, depending where you're joining us from. Thank you very much for joining us at this Your Overseas Home webinar. Today, we're going to be talking all about what expats need to know about the French visa and insurance process covering healthcare over in France. So if you're looking to buy in France, you're interested in buying in France, you're in the right place, and thanks for being here. Today, we're very luckily joined by Fabien Pelissier from Fab Expat Services. Fabien and I and Your Overseas Home have been working with each other for a number of years now. Him and the team at Fab Expat have helped countless numbers of clients undertaking similar journeys as yourselves over in France, and he really will be an integral part of your buying journeys. We hope to really get around and to answer as many of your questions as we can in this session. For whatever reason, if we don't answer any questions, we will come back at the end of the session and pass your details across to Fabien and the team to follow up with you in due course. We've got about half an hour, Fabien, so I'll pass across to you just a quick intro to yourself, and then if you wouldn't mind just passing back to me, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for the introduction, Seb. Hi, everyone. So, well, you've said it all already, but yes, I'm the founder and managing director of Fab French Insurance and Fab Expat, and we've been helping, expats or immigrants, English-speaking immigrants, move to France since 2015 now. So a bit more than a decade, right a decade, and hopefully some more decades to follow. So more than happy to help. I'm super happy to be here with you tonight, considering European time. Let's see what you have up your sleeves in terms of questions.
Yeah, thank you, Fabien. Thanks for being here. I know we've done a couple of these over the last 3 or 4 years together. It's always a real pleasure to have you here, but also, to pick your brain and to put a bit of some tough questions to you at times. So yeah, anyone listening in throughout this session, you have the opportunity to put or type any questions that you may have in the questions tab, which should be at the bottom right hand side of your screen. We do advise you to try and ask as many questions as you can to Fabien. Or as I said earlier, if we don't get around to answering them all, we will pass across those questions to Fabien and the team at Fab to follow up with you in due course. I know, Fabien, where you are at the moment is heavily raining, which I can hear slightly in the background over in France. But
obviously that it had to come right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're really studying France, everyone listening in. But yeah, no, I think I can hear you okay. So I hope everyone at home can as well. So if you want to test out how the questions tab work, please type in perhaps where you're looking in France and make us all very, very jealous. I'll get stuck into some of the questions then, having some conscious that we don't have all time to cover all the questions that are needed. So I suppose a good place to start, Fabien, is talking about the visas, given the topic. For clients looking to move across to France from the UK, perhaps also the US or outside of the EU. Can you hear me okay, Fabien?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, right.
Yeah, no worries. I was just asking, what type of visas are people eligible for if they're moving from outside of the EU into France?
Yeah, so the good news is it's fairly standard by now. So there's quite a few. France has a massive variety of visa options available. The most popular would be the non-working one, which we call the visitor visa because we like it when names are confusing. So the visitor visa is basically the one that people refer to when they want to retire to France or go on a sabbatical or any kind of non-working trip to France for an extended period of time. It's renewable. It can lapse, let's say, over multiple years, although it always starts with a 1-year visa. Another popular option would be, are the business types of visas. There's quite a lot. There's the entrepreneur visa, the profession libérale visa. There's even some that falls under an umbrella called the talent passport, which is like there's investors visas, and there's plenty, but I like to sum them up as business types of visas. They basically allow you to run a business or set up a business in France. And obviously we have student visas, we have work compatible visas, but yeah, by far and large, business types or non-working types of visas are the most popular. And I think like right before this webinar, we talked about the main requirements for such visas. The good news is whatever the visa option you decide to go for, and by the way, obviously we can help you decide what visa is the best in your case. But whatever the option, it always falls down or back to the three. I like to call them the three main pillars. So those pillars are quite simple. They're called proof of income, proof of address, and proof of medical coverage.
Mhm.
So what France wants is that you have, well, a stable address in France. So Airbnbs, well, they might be accepted in some jurisdictions, but in most it is not. So like, well, luckily for Americans, Americans tend to have those accepted, but like Australia, UK, like you would need a 1-year rental agreement or to have bought a French property, but you need a formal address in France or to know people in France that are happy with you using their address. So that's one pillar. The second pillar is the proof of income. For this one, France is super flexible. Could be passive income. You need to meet France minimum wage, which
Mhm.
well, I'll round it up to 1,500 net a month. It's actually way less than that. It's like 1,426 euros, but let's say 1,500 net euros a month per person. But you can also use savings, like you have 12 times the minimum income, which is again roughly 18,000 euros in savings. Even with zero income, that would also qualify, and any mix of both. So just to
Mhm.
be clear, you do not need both. Okay, you can have zero income and 100. So zero income and 100% in savings, zero savings and 100% meeting the income requirement. They both would qualify. But if you're short on either, you can use a mix of both. Okay, so it is
Mhm.
not mandatory to have both, but you can use a mix of both. And finally, the easiest to meet, I would say, but probably the most expensive, is the proof of medical coverage. So that very often translates into you having private medical insurance. Well, luckily, this is one of our specialty. Fab French Insurance, we offer 100% visa compliant plans and 100% money back guarantee in case of visa rejection. That's basically our job. That's what we do. Some of you might be lucky coming from the UK because there's one post-Brexit agreement for those who have reached the state pension age, so usually 65, 66 years old. You're still eligible for something pre-Brexit that used to be called the S1 program, which basically is substituting itself to the insurance requirement, basically avoiding this requirement for you. So, but everyone else, usually it means having private medical insurance. It's been a long answer, but it covers a lot of ground, hopefully.
No, thank you very much. Say, I think I love the way that you present it with the three pillars and simplify it. I know there's everyone's requirements are different, and it of course does take a conversation to establish what course of action or what cover or what visas is best suited for each individual person that's looking to apply. So yeah, thanks for talking us through that. We've got a flurry of questions coming in from the audience. So thank you very much for the questions. Just a quick one from Andrea. Yes, we will be with this session is recorded, and it will be also hosted on demand on our website afterwards as well. So you can watch it at your own speed if you're having connectivity issues or you'd like to share it with friends or family. We've got a few questions here, and I've got a couple that arose just while you're speaking, Fabien. So the first one I was just going to ask was around the proof of income. Richard is also asking along these lines. So Richard asks, when proving savings for a VLSTS application, does the money have to be in a bank account? And if so, does it need to be in there for a certain amount of time? Or can it be held in an accessible cash stockbroker investment platform?
Okay, so well, the good news is there is no line in the sand, if you like. Okay, so I would say it could be both or either. It does need to be liquid. Okay, so they need to see you could have access to that pile of cash tomorrow if need be. So if it's not, well, obviously a bank statement is a no question ask kind of supporting document that they'll accept. If it's anything else, you need to demonstrate that it is liquid and you can have access to that. So it could be a letter from your broker, it could be anything. But again, consider you're talking to French public workers who are going to assess your file. So it needs to be crystal clear. I like to say, make it LE5 proof, explain like I'm 5 proof, like a 5 years old should be able to understand the file. So how long should you have had the money signed? It just need to make sense. Okay, if they see a lot of cash coming in, it might also mean that you've just got some lump sum and maybe you need to repay that in a few months time. So the longer you've had the money, the better. But as long as you can explain, like if it's been there for ages, that's never going to be a problem. But if the money just arrived, just make sure you have some sort of a background story attached to it. Like, okay, well, I've just sold my stocks, or I've just draw down from my investment plan or something like that, so that they understand that, well, that this is why it's recent. As long as it makes sense to them, it's not going to be a problem, even if it just arrived recently. But obviously, if you can anticipate on that, the longer it's been around, the better. Yeah.
Sure. Perfect. Yeah, thank
And
you.
hopefully, I answered all of the angles.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, actually, I mean, it's clear to me, and thanks for the question, Richard, as well. One of the questions I have, I know you mentioned around, let's say, €1,500 net per person per month. Does that per person, does that also include perhaps children that are involved, or children? Is that done separately? Is there a sort of an income threshold for them as well?
Yeah. So yeah, actually, good question. So yeah, for teenagers and above, like that's for every adult. So even if you
Okay.
have kids, but they are like adults, they will have the same requirement. Theoretically, or honestly, I mean, very important. We're talking about France here, so there's a lot of unwritten rules. Okay, so practically speaking, they always apply discounts for families. Like I've seen as low as €2,000 net amount for a couple being accepted. Okay, so it's just there's no guarantee if you do not meet the requirements by the book. Okay, but it's just to say also to not stress you out too much. So that being said, for children, same. There's no line in the sand. Well, what we've seen practically is that an increase of 30%, like roughly an extra €500 net per kid, is usually accepted.
Mhm.
So let's say a single person and 2 kids, they'd be looking at something like 2,500. Again, to be taken with buckets of salt, because they will assess the file. Basically, bear in mind, they're trying to answer the question, is that person's or that family's situation look sustainable in France?
Mm.
Okay. So if it looks like you're going to meet month end, it's probably going to be a yes. Okay. If you're coming and you're very, it's funny, I don't know the saying in English. We call that burning the candle from both hands in
Yeah,
French.
yeah.
Uh, they would say, yeah, you're probably going to burn out of cash very quickly. But also bear in mind, even if you barely meet the requirements and you intend to stay in France long term, like you have no income and you just have a lump sum of money that meets the requirement for just 1 year, and you're like, yeah, but surely they won't accept a renewable visa, or yes, they will, because in 1 year time, when you want to extend or renew your visa, they're going to reassess the situation again. So if you have the same amount of cash available, they will
Mm.
renew it, no questions asked. Well, yeah, do question asked, but if you've burned through the money, then that's when they may say, well, sorry, but you can't renew that. You no longer have enough money to renew the visa. So that's why they're not that picky either, because they know that you just need to have enough to make it through the year,
Mm.
and that's it.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. And I suppose, how does it work with a family? Is it one application for the visa, the family visa, or is it done individually? How does it work from that side?
Yeah, another good question. So every 12 years old needs to have a separate application. Less than 12 years old is going to be attached to one of the parents. So yeah, that's basically it. And it's same up until 15. So well, 16 or more, they're going to have an individual interview. Less than that, no interviews. And when we say interview, it's not like headlamp in the face kind of interview. Don't worry.
It sounds
Uh,
intimidating.
yeah, exactly. It's more of a handover rather than an interview. Okay, you just actually the
Sure.
guys you're dealing with is a contractor, is a private contractor for the French consulate. So they don't even know what makes or breaks an application. Okay, they're just here to make sure they collect your file, they get your biometrics, and then off you go. So well, sure, they may be asking a few questions just to make sure no documentation is missing. That's
Hmm.
pretty much it.
Sure.
So it's
Okay,
not an
interesting.
interview; it's more of a handover. Yeah.
Yeah, formality. I suppose pass over the required documents. And just jumping back, actually, I know this comes up fairly frequently. I think there's a question here around pensions as well. Is private pension, state pension, is that included within the proof of income for visa
Yep.
applications? Yeah, yeah.
That would be seen as passive income. Yes.
Okay. What about perhaps, if someone's looking to rent out a property or a gîte, perhaps when they're in France, would that need to actually be shown on the application, or would they perhaps take that into account?
Yeah. So unfortunately, well, unless you're setting up a business, they do not consider prospective of any future income, even if there's entity attached to it. Like you're taking over, like you just bought a property that has a gîte in it, and you intend on well, keep on running this gîte. And it's certain. No, they will only look at your current situation again, unless you're doing a business. But then they'll need a business plan and all of that, and they'll need some sort of evidence to back up the numbers and the projections. So unfortunately, no, it has to be fixed income. Although once you've been around, the next year around, you might have made the income through the gîte business, for example. Then yes, they will consider that extra income at this stage.
Okay, great. I know there's a couple of people in the audience who are perhaps looking to work and perhaps build gîtes and rent them out as well. And yeah, we've got loads of questions coming through, but just one last one that I have for me on this topic. You mentioned the interview. Where does that interview take place? And also, where does someone actually apply for a visa from? Do it have to be in France? What does that part of the process look like?
So you start the process online, france-visas.gov.fr. And then it's quite simple because when you are, so considering you've applied within the 90 days window, like you have to have an intended arrival date in mind, and considering you're within that 90 days, otherwise they'll wait until you're within that window. Then you will receive an invite for you to book an in-person interview. So for that handover of documentation, let's call it, at a visa center. So depending obviously on where you are on the planet. So, well, UK, US, Canada, Australia are big enough that they have a subcontractor there. So I'll speak about the two biggest for France, which is UK and US. For UK and US, you go through a contractor that is called TLS. They will invite you to their offices. Okay. So, for example, in the UK, that's very simple. It's London, Manchester, and Edinburgh where they have offices. You do not deal with the consulate directly. They do. In the US, there's basically East and West Coast. There's quite a lot of places. There's only two in the Midlands. I don't know how do you call that. Like basically
Yeah.
Illinois and one in Chicago and one in Boston or Austin, in Texas, basically. So and that's pretty much it. So but there's quite a few. There's quite a few in the US. So that's it. Yeah, and then you wait for that. So you hand over your file and you wait for them to send the passport back, because they will keep the original of your passport, because the visa is going to be a sticker in one of the visa pages in your passport. It's a fairly, well, it depends on how busy the period, but on average, you're looking at a week-ish process, like your passport lasts for a week. Well, it could be 2 weeks or more, has been very busy sometimes in the UK. So it's quite rare to see more than a couple of weeks. And just so you know, it's illegal as per an international convention for them to withhold your passport for more than a month. So it cannot exceed a month. I've never seen it. Okay. So even during the craze of Brexit and stuff like this. So I've seen 3 weeks, but it's very rare. Honestly, these days very rarely exceeds a couple of weeks.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you. I know you mentioned there about 90 days before arrival, and we'll touch on that in just a moment, talking about some of the other pillars around proof of address and how that ties in just a moment. But we've got a question here related to the healthcare side from Russ, and it's Russ mentions being retired and will obtain the S1 form. I know you previously mentioned that, but on that basis, if someone has an S1 form, they wouldn't need to get any private health insurance cover. Is that correct?
Yeah, the French system works very, very differently from other systems. So legally speaking, you do not need any form of coverage. Some French people only have public health care, which we call social security. And you do too in the UK, but it's not like the way they call it in the US, for example. So the topping up this public coverage is not mandatory, although honestly, literally 98% of French natives do top it up. And those who don't, it's because they have a free top up from the States. So let's say it's safe to say every French native do have a top up health insurance, because it changes the way the system works dramatically. Like you get automatic refund of the claims, automatic top up of the refunds. You get something called the 100% santé, 100% santé, which means you do have a free option for everything. And that includes glasses, dentistry, hearing aids, pretty much anything. So for that reason, and for those reasons, every French native would have a mutual. So you don't have to have a comprehensive plan. You could get the basic. But so to answer the question, no, it's not mandatory, but it kind of is anyway, because everyone has that. Like everyone has that.
Yeah, of course. Okay, brilliant.
Because there's no free medical centers like you have in the UK, for example. Like if you don't have a top up, you may have to pay up front quite often. But if you do have a top up, you very often don't have to pay up front, for example.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, thank you, Ross. Thank you, Fabien. We've got lots and lots of questions. We've got one here from Gary, mentioning that Gary's partner is French. If they were to marry, does that have any effect on perhaps his need or requirement for a visa, or would he still need a visa for his plans over in France?
That's a super interesting question, actually. So I have to start saying it's not the same if you're the spouse of an EU citizen or the spouse of a French citizen, despite France being part of the EU. So spouse of an EU citizen, they don't need a visa at all, but they do need to apply for a residence permit within 90 days of following French entry. So this is quite a massive perk. And once they do get it, they have the work authorization as well. So, they can work in France. So it's kind of as if they're French. When you're the spouse of a French citizen on the other end, it is different. You do need to start with a visa, because that would have been too simple otherwise. But then you will get a longer multi-years visa afterwards. And also the problem is the spouse of a French. So with visa, there's never a language test requirement, but there is a language test requirement when you're the spouse of a French citizen, when you apply for the residence permit, which is going to be probably in 1 year time. But you will get 5 years permit if you do get the test. And if you don't pass the test, it's okay. Even if the spouse of a French citizen, they'll revert you back to a 1 year permit probably. So yes, but the perk is you do have the work authorization through that, and you will get kind of you fast track into a multi-years permit. And again, if you were the spouse of an EU citizen, no visas, you would still get a faster track into multi-years residency, but a shorter term. Like that's probably going to be a 2 years permit instead of a 5 years one. But there's no language test for the spouse of an EU citizen, at least at first.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. A great question, Gary. Actually, thank you as well for having very, very clear. I think if you aren't already touching up on your French, Gary, you need to start quickly to get through that French test.
Just so people know, it's depending on the term of the visa, it's A2 to B1, the level required. But A2 is very basic. Honestly, it should be okay. B1 is for the 10 years permit, so should be A2 at the minute for them. So A2 is should be easy to meet.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And we've got a question here from Katie. We say we'll try and get around to as many of these as possible. There's, I think there's over 30 questions that have come through. Katie is in the process of purchasing a house over in Carcassonne. Congratulations. Coming with their 8-year-old son, mother, father, and husband. We're not looking to work, but we do have a potential to rent out one of the properties on the land, which I know we spoke about. Is it possible to rent out a property such as a G on a non-working visa, or would they need a working visa for something like that?
Yeah, well, it's, same, very interesting, because actually France is quite generous with that as well. Yes, you can do this up until 23,000 euros. Unfortunately, this is for the household income. Although if she comes with the parents, that could be seen as 2 households, one for the parents, one. But household income is capped to 23,000 rental income. That's going to be seen as a non-working income. Like basically, there is a special box on a tax return called LMNP, loueur meublé non professionnel, non-professional furnished rentals. As long as you file your income, rental income, in that section, well, by definition, it's a non-professional activity, so that's non-working visa compliant. But the problem is, well, it's not a problem, but it's capped to 23,000 euros per household per annum.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Fabien. Yeah, great question, Katie, as well. We'll just go back because Julian just wanted confirmation on the income threshold for the non-working visas. So income of 1,500 euros you mentioned, and or savings of 18,000 euros. Was that correct?
Exactly that. But actually, 15,000 times 12 is 18,000. 1,500,
yeah,
sorry,
you got
times 12 is.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Stephen also asked, is the 1,500 euros per month net of tax after demonstrating deduction of French or UK tax? So would you need to take the tax deductions into account on perhaps, pensions and savings and things like that, and income?
Yeah, well, a very good question. So I'm not a tax lawyer, but we work with a lot of them, and we can refer you to one. But once you become a French resident, there is a tax treaty between France and the UK, France and the US, and so it's different per country. It's not the same, for example, for Americans than it is for Brits. Okay, so it needs to be very specific. But like, assuming, given the question, it's from the UK. Everything has to be declared and taxed in France, unless this is a pension from the state. Oh, sorry, from being an agent of the state, like, public agent, having worked for the force or military or something like this. So considering his private pension, even from the private sector, everything will have to be declared in France and taxed in France, meaning you will have the tax refund or tax deduction back in the UK, because you can never be taxed twice on the same bit of income. So usually when you're in France, the rule of thumb is it's all tax liable in France, but no longer is in whatever country you're from. And then if you've been taxed, like pre-taxed, then you're due for a tax refund. Obviously, there's different rules for different countries. For example, pensions are not tax liable if they come from the US in France. But, that's what I'm saying. Get in touch with us. More than happy to explain, specific. We offer free moving to France consultations, by the way. So.
Yeah, really good point. I was going to leave it till the end further, but yeah, just to echo that, I think if everyone listening in, I think that with taxes, we all hate talking about tax. It's really important to think about this, as early as possible, but also to plan as early as possible when you're moving overseas. And you may have noticed on the screen throughout this webinar so far, there's a QR code. If you get out your cameras on the phone, you can scan that QR code and actually book a free moving to France consultation call with Fabien and the team at Fab Expat. And we do strongly advise just to have that conversation, because everybody's requirements are unique and individual, and it's definitely worthwhile just to have that conversation, understand where you stand and what perhaps are the best next steps. So give it a try if you're
just to clarify on the just to clarify on the income requirement. Indeed, sorry, I just missed Stephen's question that you've asked. I missed a bit of the question. They will look at the bank statements. They will look at whatever is left on your bank account. So, well, technically, yes, it's net after tax, we could say, but it depends. They'll look at your bank statements. Okay, if there is 1,500 that's landing on your bank account, even if they see a line right after that says, minus 300 euros, for example, because of taxes, that's still 1,500 net for them, because that's 1,500 who landed on your bank account. So that's why it's a bit difficult to answer that question. Is it net or after tax? Or they look at whatever comes into your bank account. That's what they look at.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, sir, for clarifying
that answers the question. But
yeah, I think. Well, I've understood. But if it's Stephen, have a scan of the QR code and have a conversation in a bit more detail, especially around the tax aspect as well. We'll try and shoot through some of these ones in a quick fire motion. So we've got one from here from Xavier around healthcare side of things. If someone has preconditions, is it still possible to obtain private medical insurance or healthcare for their visas? Does that complicate things with pre-existing conditions?
Well, obviously it's less easy, but we do have, there's not a situation we haven't been able to insure as of yet, and we deal with thousands of people each year. So yes, answer is yes, we can help. No worries.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Thanks, Javier. That's great. And a question here from Paul. Paul mentioned that he's a named director of a company based in France and has been for the last 30 years or so. Does that have any impact on applying for visas or moving across to France? Would it be easier or harder, perhaps?
Could be. Really depends on his plans. It depends if he wants to be working. Depends if he still wants to be involved in that company. It also depends if he's getting a salary from that company or dividends. There's a lot of different angles. So hard to me to answer this question. So could have an impact. But in either way, it's going to be a positive one.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you. And we've got one from Chris. I believe we've already answered this around what sort of visa would be needed to essentially retire to France, but also actually do that on a non-working visa.
Yeah, visitor visa.
Yeah. As long as you're earning under 22,000 euros per year, was that correct?
23. Yeah.
23. That was it. Okay, you know what? Yeah. I was listening. And we've got a question here from David, who is wishing to retire to France from the UK. First of all, actually, this is probably a question we should have asked initially. If someone is looking to retire from the UK to France and they live there full time, do they actually need a visa? Is it possible to do it without a visa?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Unfortunately, now, post-Brexit, this is mandatory. All non-European citizens do need to apply for a visa first. Well, again, there's some exemptions. I'm generalizing, but on average, like most people need to apply for a visa. Like spouse of EU citizens don't. But again, I'm generalizing. If you're not sure, just get in touch with us. It starts with a 1-year visa. You usually, I hate this term. They say you have to renew your visa. That's how they call it. But you never renew a visa. A visa is a sticker in your passport. You probably never get another sticker in your passport if you stay around. Then you will get a residency card or permit. So I prefer to say you convert your visa into a residency permit. But yes, you do need to extend that. So in a way, reapplying for a visa, although this is a different process. The next time around, you apply from France through a governmental body that's called the préfecture, and you'll get a plastic card that looks like a driver license. So it's same process, same requirements, but also very different because it's no longer a sticker and you'll have a physical card. But you can do that forever.
Yeah, it sounds like the process is a lot easier once you have that initial visa to then say not reapply, but you say to go through and extend it, so to speak. And
David, I see Aman's question. Yeah,
go for it. Yeah, you've seen it. Is it Aman about what happens if you go for a 1-year visitor visa, but then after a year want to stay and set up a business? Yeah, if you're looking to perhaps change visas.
That is doable. So you can change from non-working to working. Well, obviously the other way around, but usually it's non-working to working. You cannot change from non-renewable to renewable. So if you've applied for a VLS-T instead of a VLS-TS, which is the renewable one, unfortunately, you have to go through that year and then reapply for the right one. This is one of those situations where you may have to reapply for a visa. Applying for a visa is always from abroad, cannot be done from France. So you have to go back to your home country, basically. So yes, but if it's just about the visa type, so work allowed or not, yes, you can do that from France and you can change it. Although, same, it needs to make sense.
Yeah.
It's not automatic.
Yeah, great question as well. I think it actually does come up fairly frequently. Perhaps people change. Do you find that happens quite a lot, Fabien, over there, where people kind of change visas?
It does, yeah. And well, basically, I'll put out the figure. It's 70% is it ends up being accepted. That's good. Well, that still means a third ends up being denied, and then you have to go back to your home country. So whatever you do, make sure it makes sense. Okay, if they see you're trying to cheat the system, or you maybe have applied for a visitor visa because it was easy, and then 2 months afterwards, applying for a business type of visa, they're not going to like it. So as long as it makes sense, that should be fine. But it needs to make sense, and it needs to be properly documented. So for talent passport and visitor and business type of visas, I always advise working with professionals because the rejection rates are a lot higher. Okay. Again, we're more than happy to help you and support you 100% for free, just to be clear. But there's some things where I think it's worth a few bucks just to make sure you're not being rejected. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not making money. We will advise for free. Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, I know you've helped countless numbers of your overseas home clients undertake this, and having that conversation is completely free. But also, I know if perhaps a visa is rejected, it does really complicate further applications as well. So yeah, definitely have that conversation with the experts who can help. We've got a question here from Gordon. I know we spoke about taxes. I know you're not a tax expert, Fabien, but do you have an overview about perhaps what some of the taxes are that will apply to retirees from the UK that are living in France? I know there's a double taxation treaty. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I like to say a non-double taxation treaty because it prevents double taxation.
Yeah.
Honestly, coming from the UK, you're going to have a fairly similar tax experience, I would say, in France. So whatever you're paying in the UK is probably going to be similar in France. Very, very often is. And it's, so national taxes is what to expect. If you have a property, there is a property tax as well. That's pretty much it. It's all very similar to the UK. Okay. And if you're from the US, the property tax is going to be like 1/10 of what you're paying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Yeah,
probably again, on average.
Yeah. I know you're not a tax expert, but I know you do have some knowledge and experience around it, but also work with people that I know you can connect our audience with, Gordon, with. Katie, just going back to the question around the TLS centre and applying with children, you have to take the children with you for that discussion with.
So if, like I was saying, 12 years old or more, yes, because they'll get the biometrics.
Yeah.
Less than 12, no. I mean,
okay.
You probably will, because I don't know, but like you don't have to. Yeah.
Okay, great. We've got a question here from Robin. Around approximate costs around applying for a visa. How much does someone budget for visas, the application, perhaps also the insurance aspect of it as well?
Well, the visa is basically €100 for the visa application itself, and 225 for the activation. That's per person. That's the cost. The insurance, depends on the age band. Well, I will assume someone. It's not the best scenario because I'm not taking the cheapest one as an example. But let's say someone early 60s, I would say probably around €2,000 for the full annum, for the full year, so that you can get a ballpark idea.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of variables when it comes down to healthcare cover and insurance as well. But yeah, thanks for giving us.
We guarantee with the cheapest. So if you inquire with us, we'll match. If you find cheaper, we'll match the price. But very rarely happens unless there is a commercial thing going on.
Yeah, and also just to highlight that as well, I know your cover is completely visa compliant. I think that's really important because you do hear stories of visas being rejected on the basis that the cover is not correct as well. So really valid.
Yeah, basically we don't want to refund you, so we make sure it's visa compliant.
yeah, exactly.
But we will if you're rejected, even if it's not because of insurance.
Yeah. We got a question here from Deirdre, and again, this is actually a great question which we haven't really touched on too much in this webinar. But Deirdre asks, if you're buying a property and the vendor agrees to let you use their address for the visa application, do you need a rental agreement, or can you use that address of the property that you're purchasing?
It's a very good question. That's something actually we do quite often or advise on. You cannot use the compromis de vente for a visa application, which is, like the initial contract you sign when you've put down an offer and it's been accepted. It has to be something called the acte de vente authentique, so like the final contracts exchanged at the end of the process, unfortunately. But if the sellers is happy with that, either a rental contract, indeed, has to be a 1-year contract, which will automatically cease basically once you've taken over the property, or something called an attestation d'hébergement, or proof of hosting, let's say, from the sellers. Again, same, it's going to expire anyway when you take over. They're both going to be compliant. So attestation d'hébergement is something you can do for free, but requires a bit of paperwork. So it requires the attestation itself, plus a copy of an ID and a copy of a utility bill. The rental agreement is like a rental contract, and again, will automatically expire once you've bought the property. So they both would qualify, depends on what the sellers is happy with.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Great question, Deirdre, as well. I know we haven't really touched upon the proof of address part of it, but again, hopefully that would offer some clarity about what's eligible and acceptable. Andrea is looking to move to France this winter. Very jealous of you, Andrea, and good luck, and let us know, of course, if we can help you, and please do take Fabien up on that moving to France consultation call in preparation for those plans. Does the healthcare cover normally include medication as well, Fabien, from Jane?
So depends what you call healthcare. So you have to be privately insured until you're part of French healthcare. Once you're part of French healthcare, there's no exclusions, there's no medical questionnaire, nothing like that. Okay, no waiting times, no waiting periods. So you will be fully covered eventually. Obviously, you have to be privately covered initially. So when you're privately covered, depends on what you have. You're supposed to be able to provide a policy that doesn't show any exclusions, although might have some, but that's one of the criteria indeed. So this is where the French government is being a bit ironic. Like, as long as it doesn't show on your statement, certificate of insurance, that there's no exclusions, they're going to be happy with that, even if there are actual exclusions on the policy. But the rule of thumb is simple. They want you to be insured up until you're part of French healthcare and it's confirmed. So, yeah. And again, we can help whatever the situation.
Yeah, of course. And also, I think fair enough. I think you guys moving overseas, I would want it to be covered and insured and have that peace of mind as well.
And there's always a solution to cover existing conditions or medications.
Yeah.
But obviously, it always boils down to the premium and stuff like this. So that's why we always run, individual assessments to make sure they have the best offer. Yeah.
Just on that point, I mean, is there ever examples where someone does have a pre-existing condition where they just won't get cover, or perhaps the premiums are so astronomical that it's not worth it? Do you ever see situations where that happens at all?
With France, yes, that's very, very common, because France is so cheap medically wise that it's always possible to cover pretty much everything or anything.
Yeah.
But sometimes, is it worth it? Like, if it's like, I've literally seen, I don't know, like with companies like Bupa and stuff. Again, we're brokers, so we will shop around. But like, the cheapest option, if you have, I don't know, like a stage 3 cancer, for example, that could be a policy worth £20,000 a year. So whereas the medication alone is probably going to be a fraction of that cost. So maybe it's better to pay out of pocket until you're part of French healthcare. But maybe not. Maybe you're worried that it may escalate and you want to be fully covered. So that's what I'm saying. We run individual assessment. It's always doable, but sometimes the premium might be dissuasive. So it's always a conversation we have. We terrible sell agent in a way. Like, we very bad. We don't want to charge you the highest premium we can. We want you to be happy with our services so that you stick around with us for years. And at the end of the day, we're not the insurance company, so we don't care. We want you to be happy and get your visa.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, sorry, thank you, Fabien.
And end up bribing us with a bottle of wine.
That's always nice. I could also confirm for everyone listening, Fabien does love a pint as well. He's been across to visit us in London. He's had a couple of pints as well, so I can confirm he'll take a bribe of a pint or two. So yeah, we've got a lot of questions as well. And I think we've answered a few of these over the course since they've been coming in around gîtes and income. And as I said, if we have missed anything, either please do take up that option of a free moving to France consultation, or this will be posted live on demand on our website and YouTube to follow up and review in your own time. I think there's all of the questions. Mostly, I've got one here from Craig. I'm not entirely sure if we answered this. So if one is planning to obtain a visitor visa as a retiree from the US and plans to spend 6 months per year in France and 6 back in the US, is it possible to obtain a French private health insurance for just 6 months each time, or since they'll be covered under Medicare over in the US? So could they just get a 6-month cover?
Okay, so depends. If you're going to apply for a resident type of visa, so like a VLS-TS, no, you will have to have a 12-month coverage. They don't care whatever you live there, 6 months a year, 3 months for 12 months. Potentially, you could be living 12 months, so they take no chances, no risks. You have to be covered for 12 months. Then, if you are to become a French resident as well, because you're living, 183 days, 6 months plus 1 day per year in France, it is also mandatory to apply into French healthcare, meaning in theory, you cannot renew your private medical insurance because you'll be part of French healthcare. If you're not going to be a French resident, meaning you're going to spend less than 6 months a year in France, then you could have a VLS-T visa instead. And with those, indeed, then you can have like a travel type insurance of policy or, something like that. And then, yes, you could work kind of the way you want. But this resident status is what's going to determine whatever you cannot do in terms of insurance and in terms of whatever this is going to be mandatory or not for you to apply into actually French healthcare. This is why it's called PUMA, Protection Universelle Maladie, universal healthcare. If you're a resident, you have to be part of it.
Brilliant, thank you. I'd say a good question, Craig, as well. And yeah, saying that clarifies it. And I think that kind of wraps up all the questions that we have here. I have one from Jay, and I think you've answered already in the chat, Fabien, around can you buy a property in France without a visa? Yes, you can. So yeah, as I said, we'll wrap it up there. Fabien, I know we've gone over time, so thank you for staying with us. I know you're an hour ahead over there in France as well, so it's nearly tea time with you. But yeah, so thank you for being here as always, Fabien. It's great to have you here, but also for you to answer all the questions, and obviously for everyone listening in, thank you for all the questions first and foremost, but more importantly as well, if you are seriously looking about purchasing or moving across to France, please do scan that QR code on the screen, have that initial moving to France consultation with Fabien. So it's completely free as well, and I'm sure he'll give you, and the team will give you, great insight into your unique requirements as well. One last thing before I let everyone go, there should be a pop-up on your screen for a Trustpilot review. If you found it useful, we really appreciate you to leave a nice Trustpilot review, and say we'll look at them tomorrow as well. So anyone that's found this useful, we really appreciate that as well. Fabien, I will leave it to you to say goodbye. Thanks for your time. It's good to see you as always, and yeah, we'll speak soon.
Yeah, well, thank you, Seb. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for the very interesting questions. And like we were saying, feel free to reach out over email, book a consultation with us. We're more than happy to support you move, or any questions you may have, completely for free, okay? Money is cherry on top, obviously, but we're more than happy to help you figure out what's best for you to act on your plans to move to France or buy a property there, okay? So we're with you guys. See you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Fabien. As always, thanks a lot. We'll speak soon. Cheers.